Welcome. In this video, we will discuss and analyze the topic called corporate governance. What is the corporate governance and what are the rules involving the corporate governance internationally and in India? Let's discuss about all these things. First of all, corporate governance is a concept generally that revolves around the proper management and control of a company. The corporate governance is the system of rules, practices, and processes by which a firm is directed and controlled. Generally, a set of rules, practices based on which a firm is directed and controlled is called corporate governance. The Cadbury report, headed by the Sir Adrian Cadbury, defines the corporate governance as corporate governance is the system by which the companies are directed and controlled. Corporate governance is the system by which companies are directed and controlled. This is the definition given by the Cadbury report. This report belongs to the UK, and corporate governance essentially involves balancing the interests of a company's many stakeholders, such as shareholders, management, customers, suppliers, financiers, government, and community. Stakeholder, the term stakeholder means generally who are directly or indirectly associated with such a company is said to be the stakeholder, whereas shareholder is nothing but who is having the shares for that company is said to be the shareholder. And this all about the introduction of the corporate governance. Coming to the why this corporate governance is needed. Let's see. Companies have shareholders and stakeholders, as we discussed earlier. Shareholders, those who own the shares in the company. Those who own the shares of the company. They may be the part of the owners of the company. By sharing the owners, they are the part of the owners of the company. Stakeholders who have interest in that company, they are directly or indirectly linked to that company. This could be anyone, including the shareholders, vendors, suppliers, customers, employees, society, and even the government, which is the government also dependent on the company by in the form of taxes or such things. The management of the company rests in the hands of key personnel. These key personnel, a few people, including the board of directors and key managerial personnel. These few persons constitute the management of the company. The management of a company needs to be held accountable to the stakeholders. They should be accountable to the stakeholders and responsible for its management and performance of the company. This so-called management team should be accountable, and their performance is responsible for the stakeholders. This not only extends to the profit making aspect, but also how the company is going to be run and how it is giving back to the society on which basis and how it treat its employees. All these things are added in the responsibility and management of a company. Hence, the rules of corporate governance were introduced to improve the fairness and transparency in the management of the companies. That's why, for proper management, proper accountability, proper responsibility, the corporate governance for the transparency purpose, also this corporate governance will be involved. Whenever we see at the turn of the 21st century, the need for corporate governance has highlighted due to various scams that have shocked the business world, such as Enron scam and Satyam scam, etc. When we see the basic fundamental pillars of the corporate governance, these include accountability is the first thing, and transparency, responsibility, and fairness. These four constitute the four fundamental pillars of the corporate governance. What are they? Accountability, transparency, responsibility, and fairness. And coming to the various international initiatives taken to improve the corporate governance, the first of all, the corporate governance internationally, a committee has been appointed first in the country of the United Kingdom, that is the Britain, uh, that committee is named as Cadbury Committee. Its report is published in 1992. The Corporate Governance Committee, officially set up in May 1991 by the Financial Reporting Council and the Stock Exchange Accountancy Profession, in response to the continuing concerns about the standards of the financial reporting and accountability in the United Kingdom. For proper management, in 1991 May, to handle all such things, a corporate governance committee has been appointed to look over overall issues of this. The final report, named as Financial Aspects of Corporate Governance, informally known as Cadbury Report, has been published in December 1992, and it contained a number of recommendations to raise the standards in the corporate governance. This all about the Cadbury Committee report. And coming to the next thing, that is the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, which was passed in the United States of America. It is popularly also known as SOX Act. It has enacted in response to highly publicized corporate financial scandals which are occurring involving in such a scenario near 2002 itself. Enron Corporation and Tycon International and WorldCom, these some of the major scandals have been occurred at the time. For response to that, this act has been passed by the US federal government. The act created strict new rules for the accountants, auditors, and corporate officers, these three persons, and imposed more stringent record keeping and disclosure requirements. The act also added new criminal penalties for violating the security laws. It also introduced some criminal penalties for the violation of the security laws. And coming to the next, that is the OECD Principles of Corporate Governance, which came in 2004. The G20 nations, under the OECD Principles of Corporate Governance, help policy makers to evaluate and improve the legal, regulatory, and institutional framework for corporate governance worldwide, with a view to supporting economic efficiency and sustainable growth and financial stability of majorly the developing world. And coming to the United Guidance on the uh, good practice in corporate governance disclosure. In 2006, these guidelines provide a benchmark for more than 50 corporate governance disclosure items. These provide benchmark for 50 items which serve as key measurement tool for the UNACTAD. It's a multi-year research program on the corporate governance disclosure. And coming to the corporate governance in India, the corporate environment in India is governed by various legislations such as Companies Act of 2003 and Security Contracts Regulation Act of 1956 and the SEBI Act of 1992, and finally the Foreign Exchange Management Act of 1999. Apart from this, various authorities and regulating scrutinies have been regulating by various authorities. Let's see all of them one by one. The first thing is the Companies Act of 2013. This act, along with various regulations and amendments, govern every aspect of the life of a company, whether the company may be public or it may be listed company or it may be private company. Since its incorporation to the winding of the company, that means since the company has been established and closure of that company, either it may be public company, listed company, or private company, every aspect of the company has been come under the rules and regulations of this Companies Act. And it contains laws governing the appointment and conduct of the directors, promoters, related party transactions, shareholders, meetings, and also CSR, that is corporate social responsibility. All these things has been included in the Companies Act. And let's see other thing, that is the Securities Contract Regulation Act of 1956. This act enacted to prevent mainly undesirable exchanges in the securities and to control the working of the stock exchange in India. The Securities Contract Regulation Act 1957 majorly look after the stock exchange of India. And again, another act, that is the SEBI Act of 1992. It established the SEBI, a regulator body which regulates the listing and trading of the securities in the stock market. And the final thing, that is the Foreign Exchange Management Act of 1999. It generally relates to the foreign exchange management in India. Foreign exchange is controlled by Foreign Exchange Management Act of 1999 and the SEBI Act 1992, which establishes the SEBI as a regulatory board to look after the listing and non-listing trading securities. And the Securities Contract Regulation Act 1956 generally focuses on the matters of involving the securities of the stock exchanges in India. And the Companies Act of 2013 generally regulates the things which are related to the public or listed or private companies, all these things. These all about the scenario of the Indian corporate governance. Apart from these various laws, there are also some regulating bodies that control the corporate governance in India. The first one is the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. All companies are required to register with the registrar of the companies who comes under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and submit all public documents such as its annual report, certification of incorporation, and commencement of business charges and created on the company assets. All these things has to be uh, properly given to the registrar of the companies under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And the second thing is the SEBI, that is the regulatory body for the stock exchanges in India. That may be all listed securities in the country or have been regulated by the SEBI. And all companies wishing to have securities listed on any stock market in the country, they have to require to comply with all rules and regulations of the SEBI. If a company wants to be listed on the stock market of any stock market, it may be National Stock Exchange Board or it may be some other things, it has to be follow it must have to follow the rules and regulations of the SEBI. And in 2015, the listing agreement which companies had to enter into list their securities on the market was replaced by a new act named SEBI Listing Obligations and Disclosure Requirement Regulations 2015. That is the LODR 2015 has been replaced as the previous existing listing agreement. And LODR increased the compliance and disclosure requirements for companies in an effort to increase the transparency among the listed companies. In order to enhance the transparency among the listed companies, this LODR 2015 has been introduced. And next thing, that is the accounting standards issued by the ICAI. Generally, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, uh, it is an autonomous body which issues accounting standards. This provides guidelines for the disclosure of the financial informations of the different companies. This also one of the regulating body. And secretarial standards which are issued by the ICSI, that is the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. It also an autonomous body which issues secretarial standards in terms of provision of New Companies Act. Whenever New Companies Act have been new company has to be introduced, the provisions for that new company, all these related terms has been defined by the Institute of Corporate Secretaries of India. It has been regulating it. And what are the important companies? Let's see. Important committee. And the Rahul Bajaj Committee. This Rahul Bajaj Committee is a task force set up by the Confederation of Indian Industries. under the Rahul Bajaj. It is a voluntary code called, it has introduced a voluntary code called Desirable Corporate Governance, which released in 1998. And the second committee is the uh, Kamar Mangalam Birla Committee. Sorry, Kamar Mandlagam. Kamar Mandlagam Birla Committee. It is a committee set up by the SEBI. This report cover issues for the protection of investor interest in the stock markets, and SEBI implemented recommendations of the Birla Committee through enactment of clause 49 of the listing agreement. Now it is replaced by the LODR regulations, as we discussed earlier. And Narayan Murthy Committee set up in 2003. It was set up by the SEBI only to review the performance of the corporate governance in India and make appropriate recommendations. And Uday Kotak panel has been recently established in 2017. In light of the Tata and Infosys corporate governance episodes, SEBI appointed the Uday Kotak panel to enhance corporate governance in India. And let's go again. In 2018, in 2017, the Uday Kotak panel has been established. Under this, 2018, several recommendations of the Uday Kotak panel has been included. What are they? Let's discuss. The minimum of 6 directors on the board of a public listed company. That means if a company is said to be the public listed company, then there will be minimum of 6 directors on the board should be present. And second thing is, at least one independent director must be a woman. That means among the 6 minimum directors, at least one woman must be there. And a chairperson of a listed company will be a non-executive director, not the executive. He must be the non-executive director to ensure the independence from the management. In order to ensure the independence from the management, the chairperson should act as a only non-executive director, that's all, for the listed company. And splitting up the role of CEO, MD and chairperson for the top 500 listed companies from April 2020. That means from the April 2020 onwards, for the top 500 listed companies, there will be splitting up of or separate chambers of CEO, MD, chairperson. That means, for example, nowadays we see that so-called Google CEO and MD is the same person, but he is holding 2 offices, the single person. According to Uday Kotak panel recommendations, the CEO has to be another person, MD has to be another person, and chairperson totally completely another person. The 3 posts will be held by the 3 persons separately. And the director must attend at least half the total number of board meetings held in a financial year. For example, a board meetings have been held 100 times. In that 100 times, the directors must attend 50 of them, at least half of them board meetings, failing which the director must obtain the consent of the shareholders to continue serving on the board. If he fails to attend half of the meetings, he has to take the consent of the shareholders. That's why he can continue on the board. An independent director cannot serve on the board more than 8 listed companies. For more than 8 listed companies, an independent director cannot serve. That means if you are a director of a company, you are on the board for 8 listed companies. Only more than 8 listed companies, you do not permit as an independent director. And managing director can hold the post of an independent director only for the 3 listed companies. This is the rule. And the increase in number of board meetings to at least 5 per year, and every meeting must have the presence of an independent director. Every meeting has to be an independent director and 5 board meetings per year. Increase in the number of the independent directors of the company from 33% to 50%. Number of independent directors must be increased from 33% to 55%. And clear powers to the SEBI to act against the auditors under the security law has to be implemented. And shareholder activism. What is this shareholder activism? Around the world, there has been a considerable increase in the shareholder activism when we see in the recent years. Indian companies are largely family owned, with majority shares being held by the close members of the promoter family. For example, Ambani. This puts India in a unique position where the rights of the minority shareholders have to be safeguarded. That's why India is situating in a unique position. That's why the rights of the minority shareholders who are apart from their close members, their shareholders has to be safeguarded in this way. And India is also seeing a rise in the shareholder activism. But given that general public forms largely the minority stakeholder community, activism has not gained solid ground yet. And various legislations in India provide for several rights and remedies for the minority stakeholders in India. When we see Companies Act of 2013 provide more power to the minority shareholders in India and allow the minority shareholders to question the actions of the majority shareholders or promoters of the company through provisions protecting from oppression and mismanagement and appointment of the independent director. These are the things, shareholder activism. And coming to the ethical issues and challenges, when coming to the composition of the board, there has no clear guidelines how the board of directors of a company ought to be constituted, nor specific rules for qualification of a director issued till now. Appointments are commonly made by the word of mouth. Generally, you will be the director, we are announcing, that's how. Within the society circles or families has to be generally appointed, the board of directors. The friends and families of promoters and management commonly appointed as board members. And true independent directors. The independence of the director is questionable and more often not. IDs tend to toe the line of the promoters to continue to remain part of the board. That means the purpose of the appointing a independent director is lost as they rarely question the executive directors or stand up for minority interests against the promoter. That's why the position of the independence of the directors has been losing. And removal of independent directors. Instances of the independent directors not agreeing with promoter have led to them being removed from the board of the directors. If you are minority opinion, you are an independent director and you are not agreeing with the promoters, you will be removed from the board of the directors. This is the situation we are facing. And accountability to the stakeholders. Lack of enforcement action and delays in the judicial system lead to the directors not carrying out their duties toward the stakeholders of the company, including the minority shareholders. That's why accountability to the stakeholders is at risk. And women directors, requirement to appoint women directors to the board is subverted by appointing women from within the promoter group. Then what is the use? Which defeats the purpose of having a woman representative on the board. If you are appointing the wife of you or someone else of you, then who will represent the independently the woman? That's why an independent woman director has to be appointed. And some of the examples of corporate governance failures that have spurred the need for appropriate regulations, including the Enron Corporation scam of the US and Harshad Mehta scam, which occur in 1990s, also called as a Big Bull Big Bull, and Satyam scam of 2009, which is after the downfall of the fourth largest IT company in India. Uh, the chairman of the Satyam Computers, Ramalinga Raju, wrote to the SEBI regarding all these things. All these things we don't have to remember. If you have to give the examples, then you have to note it. And Kingfisher Airlines scam, we all know the Vijay Malia, and the PNB scandal, we all know about all this Nirav Modi. Uh, these are the some of the things. And coming to the way forward, the regulation cover corporate governance in India has advanced with very successive scandal. Some important things should be considered are shifting of focus from role of independent directors to the limitation of the powers the promoters. The power of the promoter should be limited, and the power has to be shifted towards the role of the independent directors. This is the first thing. And second thing is incentivizing the appointment of women from the diverse background and industry knowledge to the boards rather than from the members of the promoter families. That's why when you incentivize the appointing of women, there will be more diverse background women will come into the positions of the directors, and great teeth to be given to the SEBI and ICAI and ICSI to handle the corporate failure as a regulating bodies rather than relying entirely on the judiciary. That means uh, some functions have to be shared between the SEBI and ICAI and ICSI in order to reduce the burden on the judiciary. And investment of time and money into the data protection initiatives has to be enhanced. And greater protection and incentivization of the whistleblowers who are involuntarily involving in such cases, they have to be protected and incentivized, and strengthen the whistle mechanisms in order to enhance the transparency of the corporate governance. These are the things regarding the corporate governance. That's all. Thank you.